Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Weekly Business Hour. I'm Rick Schisler. I'm your host. I'm a Silver Fox advisor and also the founder of OneBestConsult.com. Lots and lots of things going on, but today we're broadcasting live from the studios of Lone Star Community Radio, which is located in downtown Conroe, Texas. It's an exciting place to be, I guarantee you, right here in Montgomery County. Lots and lots of things happening, great for business in general, and tremendous growth throughout the Montgomery County area. But without further ado, first question of the day, I always like to throw something out there. Where are your prices? That's my question. Where are your prices? A lot of wringing in hands about recessions, inflation, these kinds of things. But I've noticed as I go around and visit with business people, small business people, that some folks are just not addressing their pricing structure. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean raising the price, but they really have taken little or no time to evaluate what it's going to mean. Of course, when you get your month-end or quarterly ending financials, you're going to see. And by then, it's too late. The time has passed you by. I believe in times like this, with inflation climbing and getting so high, pushing 10%, that you need to keep an eye on your price structure. And I know there's a lot of different things that go into pricing, but it's really, really important. First, if you don't already have a way to evaluate your pricing, a lot of this to me is personal, because every restaurant, every Main Street store, all these businesses are in competition with like businesses and also competition with other types of businesses, other industries that may take some or part of the dollar I'm going to spend with you and go spend it in a different industry, because things seem to be tightening up, or inflation is so high that I immediately say, hey, I'm going to cut back here, and that means your business is going to be impacted. So raising prices is not for the weak. It takes a strong stomach, and I recognize that. But you need to have some methodology that you do. Secondly, you need to be able to do that on a quarterly basis at least, even when inflation's not breathing down our neck. Put that on your checklist of things to do each quarter. Check it off. Check that box. Make sure you've checked that your pricing structure is right where it needs to be. The other place you can find out information, and I'm amazed that people overlook this, but your vendors, people you communicate with. Back 10, 20, 30 years or more, vendors always came to your doorstep. Today, I relate, a lot of them are online. You order it, and a delivery person from UPS, FedEx, or somewhere, Amazon, delivers it, and you don't have any communication directly with the vendor. But if you have vendors that you can communicate, ask them what's going on in your neighborhood. Ask them about the pricing. Ask them about what's going on with other like-kind businesses or business in general. When I was growing up in business, that was one of the main sources of information. We could check on our competition just by talking to a vendor who might let something slip. Others were very free with what they told us. So it's important. The question that you need to ask yourself with all this consideration, is it the time to raise prices? And again, that's going to vary depending on your market, your business, your industry, and other industries that are competing for part of your dollar that gets spent in your business. But I think it's a great time in general to raise prices. In fact, I feel it's an immediate need to do what I've been talking about, because you raise prices, you can justify it. I went to a business today. They had a sign on the front door that apologized but said they needed to raise prices because their vendors, the people they buy from, have raised prices. And it was clearly done. Of course, it was taped to the window, but the sign spelled it out in nice big letters to make their customers aware, at least from a point of view of print material as you came into the business, that they have had to raise prices basically because they were forced, if you will. So I think it's a good time to raise prices. Prices not only for today, but down the road the next year or two. So limber up, stretch out, and attack the price increases you have. Well, the Weekly Business Hour, as many of you, our regular listeners, know, is where Montgomery County and, in fact, businesses around the world, particularly in the United States, come to talk about the latest in business news, ideas to improve your business, and to be part of these conversations that can make a real difference in your business. So I welcome each and every one of you. Also want to remind you before we get started with our main course here today that we are live on Facebook and YouTube. Just look up the Weekly Business Hour page and then click on it, and you can watch as well as listen to today's program. Well, today we're going to take a topic, and we're going to explore that topic. I do this every once in a while, but I intend to do it more. I've had some feedback from you as listeners that you would like to get a little more education on major business topics. And so I'm going to do my best to provide that with experts. And we've always had experts come in every month or two and talk about a specific area, continue to do that. But I'm also going to talk today, kind of run you through a conversation. And what could be more topical than inflation and recession? And I think those two they can be said in the same breath because the news is all about inflation. It's all about recession. Are we in a recession? Are we not? The politicians really, really messed up our businesses in a sense that they won't come clear and say, hey, this is what the economic activity is, and this is what we project it will be. So that we can, as business people, small business people, can go back to our businesses and analyze what impact that may or may not have on our business. So they continue to joust and confuse with their conversation. Let's see if we can clear the air a little bit out there. And I want to start with inflation, because inflation doesn't get argued about as much, I don't think, in my reading. Inflation is what it is. It's a number. And government agency publishes it. A lot of economists and other sources put it out there, but it's a number. It's almost like it's black and white, whereas recession, well, we can argue about the recession. It was only 2 quarters and that we were down in GDP. Well, but let's talk about inflation. And a great local example I'd like to use. Recently, earlier this year, our own Conroe Courier had an article, and it was about our major school district, the Conroe Independent School District, and they explored inflation and its impact on the school district in some of the same areas that everyone who owns a business, not only here in Conroe, Montgomery County, but around the country, in fact, around the world, will impact. Something to learn from that article of what we'll be facing. This article was published on March 29th, and it was an effort on behalf of the Courier to explore it. And first and foremost, let me give you an idea if you don't already know. The Conroe School District, ISD, Conroe ISD, covers about 300 square miles. Okay, so this is a larger business, if you will, of Montgomery County, and it has 68,000 students and growing. That's a big business. And one of the major things they're impacted by, as I would think maybe your business is impacted if you do any kind of delivery or if you have vendors that ship product in, everybody's been impacted by the price of fuel. And in their case, it's a real eye-opener. Quoted from Sam DeValia, he's the director of transportation. He said, this year compared to last year, our price for diesel, because they primarily use diesel in their buses that pick up and drop off students, which is the bulk of the fuel we use in our fleet, has gone up $1.32 a gallon. Okay, that's a 47% increase Can you imagine a major component, in this case, of their transportation system has increased 47%? Well, to me, that gives me a real-life example that we are definitely in an inflationary time. Again, the number is out there, the black and white, the 9-10% believe currently, and climbing, unfortunately. But we see that impact because their buses drive 39,000 miles on an average day. So that's the impact of inflation on a business. Further, the price of the bus, and you've seen this if you tried to buy a delivery truck or a car, some type of transportation to use in your own business, but the price of their buses has gone up $15,000 per bus. Plus, on top of that, of course, and we've all heard and read stories, the supply chain issue. So delivery times have been stretched out several months. So they've faced an increase in buying the bus. The fuel's up 47%. It's a real challenging thing. Utilities, another area the school district has got to be considered a large user, but $2.5 million due to inflation on their utility bills. $2.5 million increase due to this inflation. And if that doesn't open your eyes, can you imagine in your business, if related to what your gross sales are and what your budget, their budget's $600 million, but $2.5 million sounds maybe like a drop in the bucket, but really think about that, because they got to come up with the money to pay it. So that means they've got to do something, at least within their budget, very similar to what you would have to do in your budgets for your business. So I think inflation is real out there, and to understand it, again, look at what's happening right around you, and in this case, in our own school district here, the Conroe Independent School District. The other areas that you can experience or see very plainly inflation, go in a restaurant, look at the menu, order lunch. I mean, get that typical sandwich and chips and a drink, or go to dinner and look at the bill. I mean, it's amazing. The restaurant business increases 5-10% or more. You can see it if you buy that same meal and what you were paying for it a year ago or even less. So it's a great reminder to us in our businesses. Inflation's real, which hopefully will motivate you to look at your own pricing structure and look at some other areas in your business that we're going to talk about a little bit later in today's program. Another area, vendor price increases. Again, more direct than going out and buying lunch at a restaurant is what your increases, because your vendors will send you a letter, or they'll call you, or they'll come by and they say, we're going to have to raise prices X, or we're going to raise prices X, and later in the year we're going to see another increase. They're going to make you aware of it up front if they're a good vendor and they've already considered it. So you're aware of inflation, and the impact is real in your business. Last but not least, the one that everybody likes to talk about is the gas pump, because you just drive down the street and you say, oh, the price of gas is $3.99. Now it's $3.69. Now it's $3.59. It's kind of trending down. But a year ago, we were paying $1 something less. I mean, we were down towards $2. And the realization, which I find interesting, it appears that a number of people are just realizing how the price of fuel, like our school district, the price of gas impacts everything that we do, either directly or indirectly. Everything we buy at the grocery store, it impacts that restaurant. We've already touched on that. If we buy school supplies, because, right, we're here today, it's July 18th, businesses, individuals are going back to school. And so it's impacting those prices as well. It's actually July 8th, forgive me. But the point is that the price of gas, the price of diesel, ripples through the economy, and it washes over every individual, every family, and every business, either, again, directly or indirectly. Be aware of this. And after all that, if you need more motivation to look at your pricing structure, which it may be okay, but make sure it's supporting your goals, your profit projections, your revenue, because many businesses are losing business, and they usually react to that. But I always find that that bottom line, when they finally get that financial for the month, the quarter, whatever, and they look at it and they're shocked. You shouldn't put yourself in that position. So my encouragement as we address the inflation that's around us, it's real. It affects every business. It affects the school district, government entity, nonprofit. Everybody's being impacted in a big way, in my opinion, especially when you consider 10%. Does that mean a 10% price increase? I don't know. Run your own numbers, again, because every business, every industry is a little bit different, because you can raise the prices, but you still got to sell them to your customers. There's no doubt about that. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. We're going to talk about recession. And I had a real good program that I was blessed to be a part of to get the information on by a fellow Silver Fox, and I'm going to share his perspective of the impact of the recession that is or isn't on small businesses. So please stay with us. We'll be right back with you.
Don't forget to download the Lone Star Community Radio app from your Google Play or Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM. That's Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1. If you are on the computer, bookmark irlonestar.com as your internet radio station. A Lone Star Community Radio. Broadcasting 24/7 from the heart of downtown Conroe, Texas.
Does your company have needs that can be met by an employee who is dependable, hardworking, enthusiastic, motivated, cooperative, respectful, and punctual? Conroe Independent School District Special Education Department can meet your needs by connecting you with potential employees that have been preparing for a lifetime of employment. We have numerous individuals seeking paid and unpaid work experiences. If your company is interested in seeing how we can meet your business needs, call Conroe ISD Special Education Department to find the best employees for you at 936-709-7671.
Hey y'all, it's DJ Mike from Dance Time in Texas. Join me Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. as I count down the top 10 Texas Red Dirt songs that are packing the dance floor. I'll be featuring local artists and the story behind the hits, shows in the area, as well as new songs that make you want to dance. It's Dance Time in Texas with DJ Mike on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5 KCZW and 106.1 KZCC, Conroe, Texas, or online, irlonestar.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. I'm Rick Schisler. I'm your host, and I hope you enjoyed our little piece on inflation. Again, I encourage you to take a look at your own business if you already haven't done so, and look at your pricing. Make sure that you're up to speed to continue to produce the kinds of returns that you want from your business. Well, let's switch gears and start evaluating recession. And the first hurdle we've got to get over, as I alluded to in my opening remarks, is, are we in a recession or are we not in a recession? And I find that almost comical because for years, at least, we had a definition that was always espoused that 2 declining quarters, decline in GDP, meant that the country, the economy, was entering into a recession. And we're always reminded that there's not a specific date or time that can be pegged because everything is so complex and moving. But I, again, find this just absolutely hilarious that we have to rely on politicians and economists and people, and they want to tell us we're in a recession. But the reality is, to determine if you're experiencing or entering into a recession, is evaluate, again, your own business. Are sales lagging? What are the customers saying to you? What's the feedback? Have they cut back on their orders, size of the order, or the number of orders? Are they spreading them out? The traffic, if you're a Main Street business in your store, what's happening? I mean, you can determine, obviously, better than the politicians of whether there's a business slowdown, i.e. a recession, taking place. And it seems like we're kind of skating on the edge. We're either in or out. But the reality is, if we're not in, we're really close. And so that means we need, as a business, to be prepared. And I'm going to turn to an article that I picked up. It's a summary that David Ballin, he's one of the folks at Citicorp that does some projections in the economy, publishes a newsletter, really smart individual based on my reading and listening to David. Now, this is what most recently Citicorp, if you will, and David Ballin said about it, whether we're in a recession or not. First, he points out, which I think is very astute, that the recent stock market rally suggests that the recovery is underway from a recession that hadn't happened yet. And that's true. When I left to come here today, I noticed the stock market today was up a couple hundred points, and it's trending up. We got back over 33,000. We've been down almost a couple thousand points lower than that just 6 months or less ago. So the market says to anyone who cares that we're not in a recession. David goes on to say that we are not in a recession, and nor have we had one. Another proof, the labor market. We added 528,000 jobs to the economy in July. So we've added people. So from a macro point of view of the country as a whole, we can't be in a recession if we're adding jobs. And so who's to argue with that, right? He believes that the Fed's going to continue to tighten credit. And what does that mean for us in the small business? Well, it'll create a situation where businesses won't borrow money because it becomes quote unquote too expensive. It tightens, and this will impact labor markets. People will cut back. They won't expand their businesses. So going into the next year, 2023, we could see declines in employment. Again, an indicator of falling into a recession or a down period. And then it was interesting that all of this kind of seems to come back, and I'm paraphrasing, to the Fed and what they do. It gets a lot of attention. And what does that really mean? What the Fed does mean to us in small business? Well, I just mentioned the one issue, which is very important, is the fact that when they raise their interest rate up, then the institutions, the banks, et cetera, they follow that and they raise up because their cost of money will trend up. And I think that's the thing we watch. But my thing about all of this is on a macro basis, the entire country. And it's okay to watch those numbers because if they're right, and that's another thing, they're not always right. In fact, some people think they're wrong more than they're right, and you can go study that and spend a lot of time if you like numbers and trying to figure that out. But the point is, in your own business, what's happening? Is there a trend developing? Did you sit down and look at last year, the same period, the same month, same quarter? Were you doing more or less business? And, those kinds of things. To me, those are much more important to an individual business. Also, look at your industry. A lot of times, depending on the industry, information's readily available. You also have other resources in your neighborhood, Chamber of Commerce, there are other business groups. You've got business groups tied to your industry. A lot of times they can provide you with information as well. Because I think one of the things you look at is, what about all the other businesses around me? Not only the ones that compete with me, but the ones around me. Just how are they doing? And I'm not trying to turn anybody into an economic forecaster or force you to spend 10, 20 hours a week studying numbers and researching on the internet and whatnot. I think these are things you do as you go through your day. You have a cup of coffee with someone who is in business, in another business, or a similar business, or a business like and you're just talking about what they see and what they think. I grew up in a world like that. I used to go to coffee with my grandfather, and I was just 5, 6, 8, 10 years old, and he would talk to people. He loved to talk, and he would talk about business, any topic, but they talked a lot about business, particularly if it was conversation with a fellow business person. So open your eyes, open your ears, and just see what's going on. Talk to the delivery guy. I've gotten some wonderful information just from a UPS driver that I built a relationship on the deliveries that he was making to us 2 or 3 times a week. How many deliveries? And he would say, our deliveries really are down in this area. It's an indication. So if you want to prepare, which I encourage you to prepare for a recession, we're going to talk about some of the simple things you can do to try to keep your business not only afloat, but continuing to be profitable. That's where you start, in my opinion, is that you open your ears and you pull your own forecast together. And again, you can follow the Fed, and that's mainly, to me, in the world I live in, is for the stock market, is the investment of my retirement funds, of the funds I received when I sold my business. Okay, so I want to just keep an eye on it so I have a sense of what's going on. But it trickles down to Main Street and to small business, no doubt about it. It's fun to read some of these things like what David Ballin prints, and it's enjoyable to listen through. One side point I want to make, which I think is important, there are other things. When things happen, again, the politics of it muddies the water, again, if nothing else. But there are other things going on around us that I'm guilty of this too. I'm not even aware, but someone that in our Silver Fox group sent out it sent out a link to a TED Talk, which you may or may not be familiar with TED Talks, but they're a place to get information, and people of some notoriety provide 10, 15, 20, 30-minute or longer discussion or talk, as they say, about a particular subject that they're considered to be somewhat of an expert. But this talk was delivered by Lieutenant General Hertling. He's in the Army for 30-some years, and he works and has worked for a number of years in the area of physical preparedness. In other words, how fit is the Army in the physical side, the mental side, and so on and so forth. And he said one of the biggest threats, in his opinion, and the others, to our national security and our economy is obesity. And he quoted numbers that are out there. They've been in newspaper articles. About 40% of our society, of the people here in the United States, can be considered obese based on the scales and the charts that are available. And that potentially has a tremendous impact. Well, you can see it. If I was going to join the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, I've got to have a certain fitness level, right? Well, they turn away apparently a number of people. But think about the impact on the economy. If I'm obese and I can't work 40 hours a week because I'm physically unable to handle certain jobs from the get-go. I can't become a lineman because that requires physical climbing poles, lifting equipment. It's very interesting. And again, Lieutenant General Hertling's point of view is this is going to have long-term a tremendous impact on our economy, and I think on many, many businesses, not only in the hiring, but the cost of goods, which we're seeing through inflation right now. It will rise because there'll be fewer people available to work the jobs, to produce the products, deliver the services. Interesting, when you think you have things figured out, all of a sudden something pops up. And I think this one, based not only in his discussion, but some other research I did, potentially can have a tremendous impact on everything we're doing. We're going to take our bottom of the hour break, and when we come back, I think we've got a good way to close out the show. First, I'm going to go to the mailbag. I had an inquiry that came in this last week that was right on point. How do I prepare for the coming recession? We're going to talk about some of the things that you can do. And then the One Best Consult tip of the week to close us out. Are you and your business in a recession? That is the real question. Talked around that subject a little bit already, but I want to kind of tie it all together for you. So do me a favor, please stay with us, and we'll be right back with you.
Our talk shows and music shows are looking for sponsors. Want to expand your brand awareness? Reach the hyper-local audience in Montgomery County? The Lone Star Community Radio sponsorships accomplish this. Want to see our stats and rates? Check out irlonestar.com/sponsor for more information. Or call in and leave us a message at 936-647-3776 with your question. Get seen on TV or YouTube and heard on our podcast, FM, and internet radio. Sponsor your local radio station with Lone Star Community Radio.
Did you know there are more than 790 abused and neglected children currently in foster care in Montgomery County? Will you help make a difference? I'm Allie Stevens with Casa Child Advocates of Montgomery County. We train and support volunteers to be the voice of children in the foster care system. Kids removed from their home because of abuse and neglect. And we need volunteers just like you to advocate for these children. To learn more about becoming an advocate, please visit CasaSpeaksForKids.com. That's CasaSpeaksForKids.com.
Hey, tune in to the Bridge Podcast TX Tuesdays at 11 a.m., where we are connecting commerce with community, interviewing business owners and leaders in the community, allowing the audience to peek behind the curtain of what inspires, motivates, drives these individuals to have meaningful, positive impact in this community. For more information about the show, log into irlonestar.com/TBPTX.
Lone Star Boxer Rescue is a nonprofit organization serving Montgomery County and surrounding areas, dedicated to the health and well-being of the boxer breed. Lone Star Boxer Rescue is run and managed 100% by volunteers since 1999. Our main objective is to rescue, rehabilitate, and rehome boxers that come to us from many sources, including local animal shelters, owner surrenders, and strays. For more information about Lone Star Boxer Rescue, visit our website at lsbr.org.
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/Conroe Culture.
Did you know that there are over 153 million orphans in the world today? The sad reality is 99% of those kids will likely never be adopted. Core Love is an organization right here in Conroe that takes care of orphan children in Haiti, Honduras, and India. We bring the love of Jesus by providing their 6 basic needs of clean water, proper food, healthcare, education, job skills, and a loving home. Visit corelove.org. That's CORELUV.org. Will you help defend the orphan?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. And again, I hope you've enjoyed our show so far. We've talked about inflation. We've talked about recession. I want to continue the conversation about recession in responding to Mona's email about how to prepare her business for this recession, again, that's on or off or whatever it is, but we'll get through that. But before we do, I want to mention to you that you'll be able to find a podcast of today's show on YouTube at the Weekly Business Hour. There's a lot of sources out there in social media, but an entire podcast of today's program after Wednesday of this week, a couple days. So if you missed part of the first half hour, or particularly if you want to share it with someone you know that's in business that would benefit from it, then by all means, please share it. We appreciate that. And the other thing is, remember, if you're in Montgomery County and you're in Conroe, it's an ideal place to have your business recognized, the Weekly Business Hour. You can sponsor the programs. It's very cost effective. All you need to do is just send me an email at rick@irlonestar.com. That's rick@irlonestar.com. I'll send you back some information. Would love to have you and your business as a sponsor of the Weekly Business Hour. And before we answer Mona's email, I want to touch a little bit on the Lake Conroe Chamber of Commerce. They've got a lot of things going, and I just kind of want to give a shout out to them with a few news items of what's going on in your chamber here in Conroe. First of all, they've had this drive for school supplies. It's called Stuff the Bus. Collected school supplies. Over 1,500 packages were provided. So they have sent out in their weekly newsletter a big shout out to everybody who participated. Don't forget Morning Mingle which is a great networking event for anybody doing business here in the Montgomery County area. It's coming up on Thursday, August 11th at 7:30 to 9 a.m. Again, if you want information and register, just go to conroe.org. That's the Chamber's website. That's just conroe.org. Their Fun After 5, which is their evening networking event, follows the following Thursday, August 18th, and it'll be sponsored by Russo's New York Pizzeria and Italian Kitchen. I believe they're going to hold the event actually at the Chamber offices because there's a lot more room. And then finally, Lobster Fest. That is the big event every year that our Chamber sponsors, and typically it is sold out. That's coming up along with the golf tournament on October 6th and 7th. Again, you can go to the website, get more information. Great time to go out, have something good to eat if you're a golfer. Great golf tournament, a place to entertain your guests and your customers, vendors. So take a look at conroe.org and stay up with what's happening at the Conroe Chamber. Okay, let's get in that mailbag. I'll tell you, this Mona's email was very timely. Mona's from Webster, Texas, has her business there. And I'm going to, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to utilize an article that was put together by a good friend Rich Hall of the Rich Hall Group. He's a Silver Fox advisor and works with small and medium-sized businesses. And his article, Identifying, Preparing for, and Leading Through a Recession, was first published on July 26. And again, I think Rich has done a wonderful job kind of zeroing in on the things to do. So preparation for the on-again, off-again recession. Again, you be the judge. Is your business, is your community, is your marketplace in a recession? Someone in Washington, I believe, can't tell you that. They can announce it, and it can create a negative feeling for people out there in the economy, but the reality is right there in your own backyard. So once you determine that you're either in or out of a recession or perhaps approaching one, business is slowing down, several things that you can do. Now, all of these, for the most part, are things we should be doing in our business every day. So there are no surprises here. There's no magic bullet, but often we forget. We don't typically have a checklist. Make sure we've done this, check. Make sure we've done that. Make sure we've stayed in touch with our banker. So if we need some money, he knows who we are, check. First thing on the list is maintain, improve, and nurture business relationships. This is something we should be doing every day, just naturally. Nurturing relationships not only with customers, but vendors, with our employees, business leaders, industry leaders, people in our own community. Best way to build a business is to build relationships. Again, starting with your customer and your own employees. All these relationships are different. They take different things to nurture. But knowing everyone that could positively or even negatively impact your business and having some kind of relationship with them, particularly in communities like the ones here in Montgomery County, it is so important. So make sure that you're doing the things to build stronger relationships. Diversify the offerings. In other words, what you sell. I believe it's extremely important to stay focused on one or just a few things. Too many times businesses get spread out and offer too many things, either products or services. But this may be a time to pick up a complementary product or service that you could weave into what you're doing and therefore offer something new and different for your audience, for your customer base, for your prospective customers. Cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. Have you ever heard that expression? I'm sure you have. Again, make sure your cash flow is there, what it is. Determine what you project and what you think it's going to be. It's not a difficult task, but it needs to be done. Watch your cash, because if business truly is declining and your financials show a loss instead of a profit, then you're going to need all the cash you can get to carry you over this period of downturn in business or a recession. Build that reserve and look at your AR. What is your turnaround? What's your turnover rate? Are you collecting those diligently? One of the easiest things I've ever experienced in working with business owners is they lose track of their AR. So it begins to slip. So now it's 60 days, 90 days, individual account, then another account, and it slips. And there's always a reason. But reality, all of a sudden they've got 10, 20, 50,000 or more tied up in a financing their customers and their business. It's something that you have to be on top of every day because it gets away from you. Not necessarily quickly, but it does. It slips. And I've seen it many, many times. Make sure you're getting your money and getting paid on time. Take a look at your debt, your expenses. This is a matter of looking at your financials. Make sure that they are kept tight and to a minimum. Don't stop marketing. This is one of the things people, first thing you want to do, well, let's cut back on advertising. Let's cut back on marketing because we don't need it. We just got to cut. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes when a business runs into some problems where we hit that bumpy road, business turns down, is we quit marketing, we quit selling our business. I have seen some successful businesses absolutely jump ahead of their competition during times like we potentially are going to experience. When it slows down, they keep pushing and taking the risk of spending those dollars, continuing to spend, in some cases even spending more, because it was all about market share and it was a great way to gain it during those times of struggle. And be visible. Make sure people know you're out there. This is kind of a marketing thing, but again, you can get a leg up during this time. It's not just about surviving, it's about thriving. And again, put yourself ahead, move up a notch or two in the competition. It'll pay off huge dividends when business returns to more of a normal pace. No doubt about it. And make sure that your hiring process continues. This is one of the anomalies that we're facing, is we can't find people. Unemployment, national basis, 3.5%. That I was taught at an early age by the family business is when you really can't hire good people. All the people available when you hit 3.5 or lower are people who are churning jobs, and it's very difficult to find good people. But please do not give up your standards, your qualifications. If anything, double your efforts to find the people you need. This means you're going to be investing more money in hiring than you were in the past. So again, it's maybe a hard pill to swallow that you need to spend more money, whether it be on advertising or going to hiring events where you can put your company's name out there. But it means particularly that you as the owner make sure that this is a priority in people's minds that are responsible for that. So there's a list. Thank you, Rich Hall. I think it's a comprehensive, real list that every business should go down through it, check it off. And again, there are going to be some special businesses that are well run, and they're doing these things already. And congratulations to you. But the bulk of us, based on my experience and growing up in small business and being in small business, is that we're going to need to at least catch up on one or two, maybe more. Do these things so you're better prepared to face what comes in the future. We're going to take our final break of the day. And when we come back, I'm going to go to the best consult tip of the week and kind of tie all these conversations together. My title, Are You and Your Business in a Recession? That is the real question. So please stay with us. We'll be right back with you.
Statistics show that 1 out of every 6 Texans struggles with food insecurity and hunger. And many people don't eat enough fruits and vegetables every day. The Better Living for Texans program is here to help you learn how to make healthy menu choices, save money at the grocery store, prepare quick and delicious meals, get more good nutrition in your day, and get more physical activity. Classes are fun, friendly, interactive, and free, and taught in English and Spanish. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
Don't forget to download the Lone Star Community Radio app from your Google Play or Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM. That's Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1. If you are on the computer, bookmark irlonestar.com as your internet radio station. A Lone Star Community Radio, broadcasting 24/7 from the heart of downtown Conroe, Texas.
Hey, tune in to the Bridge Podcast TX Tuesdays at 11 a.m., where we are connecting commerce with community, interviewing business owners and leaders in the community, allowing the audience to peek behind the curtain of what inspires, motivates, drives these individuals to have meaningful, positive impact in this community. For more information about the show, log into irlonestar.com/TBPTX.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show, with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online.
Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is our final segment for today, Monday, July 8th. Again, hopefully you've enjoyed our discussions about inflation and recession. And I want to tie everything up in this final segment. But I also want to let you know, again, if you have a question, whether it's about the show itself, suggestion about our format, anything, if you're interested in being a guest and talking about your business, please drop me an email. It's real simple. Just send it to Rick, R-I-C-K, at irlonestar.com. That's Rick at irlonestar.com. Well, let's tie this all together in the few minutes we have remaining. Are you and your business in a recession? That is the real question. Again, I've touched on this several times earlier today about how to determine if you're in a recession. I mean, and generally, and what really is important is that your business is in a recession. Again, not important what's happening in Washington, D.C., or New York, or Miami, or Los Angeles. What's important is what's happening in your business, in your own backyard, in your own marketing area. And that's where you've got to focus. I mean, you can take a cue from all the national discussion, but then you've got to check yourself out in your area, because some areas of the country are going to do better than others, even during a recession. You know, one of the things my father used to be fond of saying is one of the reasons to do business in Houston, Texas, in this area, was because they are typically the last one to be impacted with a downturn and one of the first to come out of it, which proved true in most cases, at least during my lifetime. So again, local matters. I want to turn back to our friend Rich Hall. Again, Rich, thanks for putting together your thoughts on recession and what to do and what steps. But he put together some ideas about how to identify, and we're going to drill down a little bit further than we have earlier in the show. First thing is, what is the definition? And this is where the big national argument is going on. Again, I find it hilarious. I have to smile or laugh a little bit every time I think about it. But the bottom line, generally, what recession is, as pointed out by Rich in his recently published article, is a significant decline in economic activity spread across the economy, lasting more than a few months. Normally visible in the real GDP, that's the number that I'm familiar with, 2 quarters. If it's down in the negative, then we have indications of a recession. But also real income, employment is kind of the ringer in this deal. It's way down, unemployment, and so that doesn't say we're in a recession. Industrial production, wholesale, retail sales. And so obviously, as an economy that's impacted or showing down numbers in those areas, struggling, there are fewer sales, people are spending less, overall economic output declines. And this you can see in job layoffs, which when we talked earlier about David Ballin and his forecast for Citigroup is 2023. They expect some of these layoffs to occur. Not right now, though, and therefore we're not in a recession. It's very interesting because all these variables are not happening in concert. They're popping up here and there and that. Another good reason, and don't get tired of me saying it's local, what's happening. What causes a recession? All kinds of things. COVID pushed us that direction. Other things in my lifetime in the 70s, we had the big war with OPEC, if you will, and the price of oil and gas skyrocketed. There are all kinds of bubbles. That's usually real estate that I'm most familiar with. The prices get up, kind of like they've been doing the last couple of years, and all of a sudden they just get so far up, people stop buying. It's almost like overnight, which is not true. And then the prices have to find a new level, and unfortunately, many times they come down double-digit percentages, and that's where you have a crash. Inflation can push you towards a recession. Again, the cost of goods and services goes up so high. One of the things that our Federal Reserve is having to carefully decide how much to raise interest rates, because if they overdo it, which many people feel they typically do, then they can push the country into a recession. Excessive debt, deflation, price declines. We're not suffering from that right now. Wholesale industry changes resulting in massive layoffs. The tech industry's such a big player in our economy now. If all of a sudden they laid off a couple 100,000 people, could be because new technology or slowing sales in the products and service that they provide, any industry, then all of a sudden we're in a recession. So it's very important. Again, my comments back to you as a business owner. One, politicians are the wrong source for information about a recession, along with many other things, my humble opinion. But it's political. They're trying to shore up their position, so they really have a tendency, at the very least, not to tell it like it is. And so be very careful. They ring the fire alarm when it serves their purpose, not necessarily your purpose. Many times, unfortunately, those two aren't the same. So keep your eyes open and your ears open. Don't fall for that. Economist, another area. I just saw last week, I believe, like 300 economists, or nearly 300 economists, whatever that means, the graduating class from where, signed a letter that said, definitely we're in a recession, and here's the reasons. That's fine. That's good. And I'm sure all 300 or 295 or whatever the actual number it was, they believe it. I mean, their economic models show it. But still, that doesn't mean they're right. And I don't think, again, it means that the numbers, the charts and graphs and stuff have to be accurate. I think it's what's happening, again, repetitively in your own backyard. What's happening to your sales? What are your customers? What are they thinking? So much of this is emotionally driven, overreaction, but this impacts your business. So you've got to be aware of what's going on. So by all means, encouragement as we close today regarding recession and inflation is look inward, look at your local business, look to your institutions such as your bank, your chamber of commerce, get the information from them of what they are seeing locally. And then in my opinion, and I use this loosely because I don't think this takes a lot of time. I know in my practice it doesn't. Be your own forecaster. Don't stick your head in the sand. I have met people that own small businesses that are amazing in how they understand the pieces of this puzzle, and they are able to talk with some degree of accuracy, not only in current situation, but even forecasting out 6, 12 months or even beyond, because they understand their business. And I encourage you to reach that point. Well, as we close today, an encouragement. This is for me, my fellow Silver Foxes. You know, a mentor, advisor, coach can help you realize your goals by guiding you on how to use your assets most effectively. In this case, Rich Hall has published an article and has a background and information to help you determine the impact of the, again, on again, off again recession, talk about inflation, price increasing, give you some real expert advice, been there and done it in many cases. So don't discount the value of a mentor, advisor, or coach. Again, thank you to Rich Hall and David Ballin for sharing their wisdom and experience on how to identify and handle a recession. And put a note on your calendar to join us again next week, Monday, 11 a.m., right here on Lone Star Community Radio. A podcast of today's show will be available on the Weekly Business Hour pages, on Facebook, on YouTube, on the website of the station, irlonestar.com. And finally, until next week, stay engaged this week and always keep your focus on what counts in your business. Thanks.